So, welcome everyone to tonight's interview with the author of the amazing blog Emerging from Broken, written and facilitated by Darlene Ouimet. Welcome tonight, Darlene.
Hi, John. Thanks.
And welcome to all our viewers on the website this evening. It's really great to have you along for the interview. Just to say something quickly about the format here. Darlene and I are connected on Skype by video chat, so we can hear each other and we can see each other. Everyone else can see us and hear us, but they're not able to communicate by voice. But we do have the chat room in place, so please feel free to jump into the chat room. And I guess our hope tonight, Darlene, is that we get a conversation going around the globe. So I guess you're really up for hearing people's comments and questions and see how we go.
Great. Sounds great.
Yeah. So we bumped into each other nearly 2 years ago when we were both starting to use the internet for therapeutic interventions, I guess. You were working with a counselling
Mhm.
company. I was working on a conference at that time, and then you started to develop this incredible blog, Emerging from Broken. I wonder maybe you could tell us a little bit about your journey from there to here, how you've got here today.
Okay. I struggled with dissociative identity, chronic depressions. The first depression I had, I was 10, that I remember, and just struggled in my life. I was a real seeker, so I had tried therapy, group therapy, AA, other 12-step stuff. I started in 12-step when I was 19. I really wanted well, I thought I just wanted to be normal, and I didn't think I was normal. I had gone, decided there was no normal, all that stuff. I'd gone to different therapists, and when my oldest child was about 12, I was heading for my third, like what I call serious depression, where I couldn't get out of bed and had to be on medication, and it was a 2-year process. And I knew I was headed back into that. And my self-esteem was so low that I was considering leaving my family. And I had 3 children. The oldest was 12, the youngest was 6, and I really thought they'd be better off without me. And I started to tell my girlfriend she lived in the States. And on the phone, I was telling her, I'm just going to leave. And she talked me into trying therapy one more time. And I thought, well, I've got nothing to lose. So I did. And as luck would have it, or fate, or karma, or whatever, I met a therapist who was different than other therapists that I had ever worked with before. And I think I was so desperate that I just sort of let down the walls. And he started doing a type of therapy called causal therapy, which talks about the root of the problem, not I said, well, I'm not happy and I don't know why I'm not happy. And he didn't deal with that. He said, okay, he wanted to do a history, which I'd done before and I didn't want to do again. But I did. And so because I just, he wasn't very responsive to me fighting with him. So I did
Okay.
it his way, and I started with my first trauma memory.
Hmm.
And within a couple of sessions, I could see that like there was a pattern in the way that I had processed abuse from a child. And it wasn't just because my first memory of abuse wasn't a parent, but it wasn't my parent that had done it. But there were other things around it that I started to see. So other events tied into those events. So by the end, I decided that I was going to do this therapy. No matter what it took, I was going to go to the end. And I did. And my husband ended up having to, like, all of a sudden I realized my marriage was also not as good as it could have been, because I wasn't really an equal in my marriage, because I hadn't been an equal in anything in my life. And my husband ended up also going to therapy. He thought he was going so he could learn how to handle me. But in the first session, he was like, realized that what, in fact, he said, and he's very supportive. He even comments on my blog. Um, So I just wanted to tell everybody I'm not talking behind his back. He's Jimmy B. If anyone wants to know who my husband is on the blog, he's Jimmy B. And he said, "I've been duped. I've been tricked," because he was like not going to go to therapy, but he did. He ended up going for his own issues, and he went through the same type of process as me. So at the end of my process, before I was even done my therapy, I had this huge passion to tell people that full recovery was possible. That, I mean, I had multiple personality, and that's something that a lot of people don't believe you can recover from. And I don't have alters anymore. I'm not a separate bunch of people. I'm not fragmented, and which is where the word broken came from. I felt so broken all my life, like something fixed me. And so I got this passion. I started speaking in mental health seminars,
Hmm.
and I started seeing I could see that I was having an impact on people. Now, I used to speak in AA as a speaker, and years before that, and I didn't, and I was a popular speaker. I was dynamic, but I didn't have that impact. I didn't see the same impact. So I knew there was something different about this. And I also noticed that people who had mild depression and never had been physically or sexually abused were also totally related to me. And that was really interesting to me. Like, I thought, why are people connecting with me that haven't had that kind of abuse? And every kind of different diagnosis, like it could be PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder, or bipolar, or chronic depression, like it didn't seem to matter what the diagnosis was. There was this common denominator. And the common denominator was the belief system. And I decided I wanted to be a therapist, but I have no patience for people who don't want to do the work. So I knew that one on one might not be. And I
Yeah.
was 40 something, 42, I think. I was not, I didn't know about going back to school.
Hmm.
So I decided to go to coaching school and get my coaching degree. And I went to a school that you could actually pick your professor, and it was an online school. And I picked a professor who was a psychiatrist because I wanted to learn to communicate. Like, coaching's got a lot to do with not being a therapist. Like, they actually train you not to be a therapist. So I purposely picked a psychiatrist, and I did that for 9 months. And then I took a specialty with the same psychiatrist on work called Live a New Life Story. So the whole thing came together for me, like the whole belief system thing and rewiring, like I call it rewiring or reparenting my reparenting myself and rewiring my beliefs. And that's what I just decided I was going to write. I'm not a writer. I've never considered myself to be a writer. In fact, the
Yeah.
first 4 or 5 months of the blog was painful. It would take me 4 hours to write 500 words.
Wow. So it
And
sounds like, Darlene, you've had up till now a huge journey, I guess, in your own experience of abuse, and then thinking
yeah,
about, well, what are you going to do with that, and choosing to train as a
yeah,
coach.
one of the things I did, and yeah, and I decided the coaching ended up being, it was great for me to learn how to communicate without being like giving directives like therapists do. It was really great for that. But I don't coach one on one either because